Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. So, let's start off with what the judge's demeanor would be towards you when you really got this down pat and you are really going at it with them. But see, when you hear this word going at it, you think it's some type of struggle, some type of battle. It's not. It really isn't. When I say going at it, I'm referring to you really understand how this thing works. You comprehend it, you're savvy to it. And because of that, it's second nature to you. Everything that you put in is swift and smooth. This will be the judge's order and their demeanor referring to you. This case was settled, and part of the settlement agreement is that the case number would not be disclosed. But part of the settlement agreement did not say that we can't show the court order. So here's the judge's words. One of the defendants that was sued, that went into the inquiry, was Citigroup. In his amended complaint, they identifies the Citibank defendant as Citigroup Investment Inc., aka Citibank, aka Citicorp Credit Service Inc., USA. In other words, this is the mother company. This is the subsidiary bank, and this is the entity that they use to extend credit. They layer their entities, and you have to be aware of it. The court will refer to the defendant as Citigroup. Bay's claim against Citigroup arises under 15 U.S.C. 1681 NB, which provides that a person who obtains a consumer report under false pretense or knowingly without a permissible purpose is liable for the consumer's actual damage. This consumer that they're referring to here in this case was the ligas, because what you'll be doing is as simple as you will take the credit report and you will show it on his face and you will say, this is not mine. And you would have sent it to them before saying, look, this is not mine, remove it. After that, you simply sue them. Your contention is as simple as this is not mine, and this is the evidence that they accessed it, and I said it wasn't mine, and I told them to remove it, but they didn't. So now you owe me. And the body of law that they refer to here in the form of a statutized version lets you know that they are liable to render you actual damages, which you have to prove by preponderance of evidence, or statutory damages of 1K, whichever is greater. Now, these statutory damage are per occurrence, so it can stack. What I would say is when you first begin it, I say get into the practice by starting off small so you can get a feel of it. Then after that, you can begin to stack it by occurrence. Goes on to say, Bay has sufficiently alleged this as to Citigroup. He says he did not apply for credit with the company, and his materials include a plausible basis for an allegation that Citigroup told the credit reporting agencies otherwise. Citigroup is not entitled to dismissal. When you put in any given complaint, regardless of how severe or simple the case is, only one tool is required to kill the sufficiency of what you're claiming. And that one tool is called a motion to dismiss. And the next thing that's going to come is the acting judge is going to say, all right, you have to respond to this motion to dismiss. And all you have to do when you respond is put the preponderance of evidence in. And that preponderance of evidence is going to be through judicial notice, which is going to be what causes the acting judge to look at it, which will cause them to say this. Bay has sufficiently alleged this as a Citigroup, meaning they have provided someone else the credit report without permissible purpose. What is the burden of proof on your end? Show that. The burden of proof is now on them to show that yes, you did. How would they? Now, here are the loopholes to it. If it's either way, whether they do whether they don't, they're damned. Because if you've been actually damaged, which you have to prove, they have to compensate you to restore you. Or there's a statutory damage of 1K. Don't worry, the amount is going to accrue in different ways. We'll go over that too. Whichever is greater. So if the actual damage is greater than the statutory damage, then that's what they're going to grant onto you. Bay has sufficiently alleged this as to Citigroup. He says he did not apply for credit with the company, and his materials includes a plausible basis for an allegation that Citigroup told the credit reporting agencies otherwise. Therefore, Citigroup is not entitled to dismissal. When they hit your complaint or verified complaint with a motion to dismiss, all you have to do is just show that they did in fact apply for it. That is how easy it is for a suit like this. So whenever they hit you with a motion to dismiss, they're not entitled for it. But see, the acting judge can only look at the preponderance of evidence that you put in, which is only if you do it through. When it comes to the credit bureaus themselves, you have to show that they did not put reasonable effort to ascertain the verification process. This is just the order now as to what the judge will say, which will compel them to settle with you. We'll be going over all the other details a step at a time. Under 15 U.S.C. 1681-0, a person who negligently fails to comply with a requirement under the statute is liable to the consumer for the consumer's actual damage. Statutory and punitive damage are not available for negligent non-compliance. Bay's claims against Experian and Equifax depend, listen to this, they're telling you what your requirements are when you bring this type of claim. So substitute you for this, for Bay. Bay's claims against Experian and Equifax depend on whether the credit reporting agencies, remember we're speaking about the credit reporting agencies now. See, the requirements for the credit reporting agency is actually different from the requirement of the one reporting the supposed credit being applied for onto the credit report. The two requirements are different for the credit reporting agency and the one reporting it. The credit reporting agency have to take, when you send them a letter disputing it, they will send you back a letter and say, oh, we verified it. Here's a court order that's going to tell you, well, the process of their verification shows and proves nothing unless they certify it. And the only way they can certify it is if they disclose some private contract of them selling contracts, which they will never do. And because they will never disclose private contract that they have between the banks and the credit reporting companies, that's where you get to step in and say, well, if you're not showing that, which they never will, because those are private contracts, and they have non-disclosure agreement amongst each other, which they will never disclose. That's the part where you come in and say, well, if you're not going to present that, and you're tapping into the credit of this property of mine, according to this public law, which is statutized in 15 U.S.C. 1681, etc., you owe me this amount. That's where they're throwing the white flag. You see, the defendant says that Bay's allegation is conclusory. Conclusory basically means you come into a conclusion without evidence and unsupported, and that he offers no evidence to support it. Listen to the tone and the demeanor of the acting judge. How could he? He has had no opportunity for discovery. At this point, what Bay has is his statement that he did not apply for credit with Citigroup, Equifax, and Experian statements, that they gave his information to Citigroup based on the proposition that he had applied for credit from Citibank, and his own knowledge that his proposition is false. Guess what? Since you are the plaintiff, there's no need for you to do discovery. Discovery is only meant for a defendant to figure out why someone is bringing claim against them. All you have to do is point fingers, and make sure when you point fingers, bring in the evidence. Now the burden of proof on their end. And the only way you can know more than what you have in front of you, according to what the acting judge is saying here, is if you've had opportunity for discovery, which you would have done outside of court by saying, hey, Certify this according to this section of the public law statutized into 15 U.S.C. 1681 and so and so. Certify that whoever came to you and accessed this credit report of my property did it according to law, and that I actually have the proper contract with them that everyone goes on about. They're never going to be able to do that. And it's not just only your contract, it's the contract between that reporting agency and that entity that's tapping into the credit report. That's what they have to show and certify. And it's not just only your contract, it's the contract between that reporting agency and that entity that's tapping into the credit report. That's what they have to show and certify. And it's not just only your contract, it's the contract between that reporting agency and that entity that's tapping into the credit report. That's what they have to show and certify. The court concludes that Bay's allegation that the defendant furnished his consumer report to Citibank based on a false pretense is sufficient. The complete 34-minute video has been posted on the Patreon page last year, June 3rd, along with the second part and all the other corresponding parts. Take care. Best of luck.